The Finding Purpose podcast is proudly brought to you by Relive the Moments, founded by visionary entrepreneur John Lim. We live in a world where it's easy to capture memories, but Relive the Moments makes it effortless to re-experience and share them. From NFC-enabled tap coasters and photo frames to interactive video cards, Relive the Moments turns everyday objects into unforgettable tap-to-experience keepsakes. Imagine gifting a wedding guest a coaster that instantly opens your highlight reel, or giving your event sponsors a custom frame that tells your story with just one tap. Whether you're celebrating a milestone, planning a wedding, honoring a legacy, or elevating a brand experience, Relive the Moments is the bridge between the past and present, between memory and connection. It's not just a product, it's an experience. Visit www.relivethemoments.com and use promo code PURPOSE for 25% off your first order. Let's bring your memories to life, one tap at a time.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Finding Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Adam Vora, and I'm so grateful to have you here. This podcast is all about exploring the journeys of incredible individuals, people who have faced adversity, found their purpose, and are now making an impact in their communities. But it's also about my journey. Over the years, I've faced my own obstacles, moments of doubt, and struggles with identity. Through it all, I found my purpose in giving back, creating a space where people can detach from the negative emotions and stigmas they may associate with their own stories, just like I did with mine. Here, we have real conversations about growth, resilience, and transformation. Whether you're searching for direction, striving for personal development, or simply looking for a place to feel seen and understood, this is for you. So if these conversations resonate with you, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with us on social media. Now let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to the Finding Purpose podcast. I'm Adam, and I appreciate you tuning in. Whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts or watching on the official YouTube channel of the Finding Purpose podcast, thank you for showing up. If you haven't yet, take a second to subscribe, leave a review, and share. It helps us keep amplifying these purpose-driven stories. Over the last few weeks, we've had some incredible conversations, from John Lim's journey as visionary entrepreneur and father to Stephanie Ruzin's grounded perspective on discipline, identity, and connection. Today, we keep that momentum going with a guest whose story is all heart, grit, and transformation. Alan Collins is a business owner, speaker, and a man in long-term recovery. After overcoming addiction, Alan went on to build multiple supplement stores and launch his own brand, Hollow Labs. But his mission has always gone deeper than business. For the past 4 years, he's been showing up for others, speaking to men in recovery and those coming out of prison, using his story to light the path forward. In 2021, Alan ran 72 miles across the Appalachian Trail, raising $63,000 for the rescue mission of Trenton. His impact in the recovery community earned him the Inspirational Leadership in Recovery Award from the New Jersey Association of Mental Health and Addiction Services. But at his core, Alan is a husband, a father, and a living reminder that it's never too late to change your life or to help someone else change theirs. So Alan, thank you so much for joining us, bro. You took the ride out here from Jersey, and we had a nice lunch before this. That was great. So thanks for coming, man.
Absolutely, brother. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, of course. I told him before that I hated people when people didn't thank me for having them. So he made it a point to do that right out the gate. But bro, we really were able to have a good conversation at lunch, and that previous conversation. Obviously, the thing that bonds us is our recovery journey and the different perspective that you adapt to after you've kind of overcome that. So. Obviously that's a huge part of your life. I'd love to hear parts of that early journey and really what it used to be like. And then we can kind of jump into, where you are now and how that's shifted.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was, I won't get into much of the childhood stuff, probably similar story. Things happen when you're a child and they kind of shape your future. So I got into hard drugs when I was about 16, and from 16 to 29, it was just kind of chaos. It was heroin. Heroin was my drug of choice. Started at 16. By 18, I was in my first rehab, and then 18 to 29, it was kind of just kind of lost in and out of rehabs, arrested more times than I can count, halfway houses, three-quarter houses, all that. The thing that changed this time around when I got clean was I finally started to listen to people and think that I, realize I didn't know everything.
Yeah.
Right. So I started to take advice. I did all the things that they told me I had to do in order to get clean, the things that I avoided for the last 13 years, which was, get a sponsor, go to meetings, do counseling, therapy, not hanging around with the kids in the facilities that were just doing, chasing girls, doing things like that. So I was working 2 jobs, and I was just doing things that I never did before. Like I said, taking advice was the main thing. Like actually realizing that I didn't know everything, and I reached out, I opened up, got vulnerable, and started dealing with like my past traumas. You know what I mean?
Was there like anything like? So obviously, we both know that it's a very progressive disease. And I speak pretty openly about my recovery journey. And like the first time that I ever drank, I basically knew what was in store for me. I already knew that like it was gonna be pretty bad. Do you remember the first time you started using?
I remember the first time I smoked pot when I was 14. Yeah. Hard drugs, I do. I first time I did heroin, I said I was 16 years old, and I got sick. I threw up. And most people would probably say, I'll never do this again. That was terrible.
Yeah.
My reaction was, this was awesome. Where can I get more?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking too, like that this was the answer to all my problems. It made me feel whole. It made me feel comfortable, because for my whole life I felt like there was like this awkward kid, ADHD, never fit anywhere. We moved a lot, so like I was constantly making new friends. And it was like when I first did that drug, I thought that was the answer to all my problems, which is a pretty sad realization, right? And then, like I've been speaking for 4 years, and back in, I guess it was 2021, I started speaking, and the feeling that I got when I first spoke to other guys in recovery was the same feeling I got when I first did heroin, which was, this is the answer to all my problems, right? Like being of service, having an impact, helping other people who can, essentially, they can't do anything for me. It was all for them, And that's what's like, now that's driving my entire life. That's my main goal, my main purpose is just, having impact, speaking to guys, helping guys who were where I was realize that they can too crawl out of that, that dark hole that they're in now.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, like I feel the same way, like where, you have that moment where like you feel like, whatever substance you're using is the, be all end all, and it's the answer to your problems, and it's filling you. And then, obviously when you remove that from your life, then there's like a gaping hole. Mm-hmm. And, obviously, I think that's like something super fundamental for recovery, in the sense where once you remove it, you need to find a channel to share the gift of sobriety to other people. And, that's something that obviously you found in your journey with speaking and sharing and helping men who are incarcerated and whatnot, navigate their journey. During these conversations, are you walking them through your story?
Yeah. So basically what it is we break it up into pieces. What we're doing now is like we're calling it a 5-hour workshop, because we've integrated some like activities like vision board, some like breakout groups and stuff like that. But we tell it in small parts. The beginning, we pre-qualify. We don't get into the war stories. Nobody needs to hear that. But we tell them like what we've been through, talk about some of the facility stuff, talk about some of the trauma that we've experienced. And then the second part is like when we first got clean, basically where they are right now in a facility. And we give them some things that they can do at the time that, being in a rehab, like what can you do? It's what habits, what rituals, what routines can you start to integrate now that can carry over into when you get out of there? Because you've been in facilities before, you know how it is. You get out of rehab, this like, you're in this like safe, protective bubble where you don't even want to get high. But as soon as you walk out, like you leave the property, everything hits you. You know,
Yeah.
like all everything that you've done, all the you know, you got court cases, you got all these things that you have to deal with, and you get out of there, and it all hits you in one shot. And that's why I think every time I left rehab, before I got clean this time, I was almost high by the time I got home every single time. Like I literally would stop on the way home, or as soon as I got home, I started looking. Like I didn't last a day almost every time I left rehab. So we break it up into pieces, and then the last piece is, you know, like the business side. We teach is more of an entrepreneurial class. I think that like addicts are built for running their own businesses because there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of ups and downs, and like that was what we lived through our entire lives. So like having the resilience of being an addict allows you to deal with the ups and downs of business, you know? And then we typically don't have much. Like I didn't have anything my whole life. So I can go long periods of times without making any money and not having much because that's kind of what I've dealt with my whole life.
Yeah.
You know, so we really focus on the entrepreneurial part, and we also make them realize, look, you're not going to leave here and get a $100,000 loan and start your business right away. So we teach them to find something you're passionate about. Maybe go find somebody who does what you want to do, and just kind of like not leech onto them, but like go work for them, learn from them, figure out what to do, what not to do. And like, you know, a couple of years of that, like you may be able to earn yourself into their business. You may realize that's not even what you want to do either, you know, but like having that entrepreneurial mindset, working for somebody else, that can also be like extremely rewarding and beneficial financially too, you know?
Absolutely. So when you're talking and pre-qualifying with these guys, what are some things in your life that you bring up that you had to overcome, you know, on that initial journey of just like overcoming traumas and overcoming hardship that you knew were thorns in your side that, you know, were major catalysts as to why you'd always relapse?
Well, like I was telling you earlier, like addiction and alcoholism runs in my family, you know, so just like growing up around that stuff, and then having ADHD and like, you know, mental issues, being on medication when I was a kid. But really the pre-qualification is just letting them know, like, look, we've been to this many rehabs, we've been arrested this many times, we've been in these facilities. And the thing that's different about us, and there's a whole program that we speak at.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other presenters, and we're the only presenters that are in recovery. So they get a lot of people who are like, you know, they're business people, and we're so much more relatable to them because like my brother-in-law Curtis actually sat in the same chairs. Like he went through the facility that we speak at. So when they hear that, it's so much more relatable. You know, like even though we're 12 years clean and they're just getting started, they realize that, oh, these guys are the real deal. They've been here before. Curtis was actually in this facility. You know, so it's really more like pre-qualifying in that way. Like, look, we've actually been through this. And not to take anything away from the other presenters, but we bring something to the table that they just can't. They can't relate to like the feeling of being hopeless and the feeling of being like dope sick and in a jail cell. You know, like there's a special bond that we have with these guys because we've been exactly where they were.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like a lot of recovery, like, you know, like for me, like I really talk a lot about my bottom because like my bottom was like one of those things where like it was like a trifecta of bad things: getting arrested, losing a job, losing my family essentially, and then also, you know, finding out that like my pancreas is going to fail if I continued to live the way that I lived. And, you know, like I think that if I hadn't had that bottom, I never would have been like able to just kind of make the decision to, like you said before, kind of take the suggestion of others, be a little more open-minded. What was your bottom like?
Man, my bottom was terrible. So the last time, once I got clean, I was arrested 5 times in the last 6 months. I was in a terrible living situation, and I've actually never talked about this, never shared this. I've maybe told this to 3 people, but I was in such a dark place. I used to cut myself, but I didn't use a razor blade. I would take nails and put them in between my fingers, and I would claw down the front of my chest with these like construction nails.
Jesus.
And I was in such mental pain. The only thing that would take that away, it's drugs stopped numbing that anymore.
Yeah.
So it was physical pain that was, it was physical pain. That's the only thing that would take away the mental pain was the physical pain. It wasn't like I wanted to die. I wasn't trying to kill myself. it was just like, I guess, transferring the energy of like the negative pain and the mental pain into the physical. And I would have to, obviously I wore a shirt all the time so nobody could see it. But when I would do that for 4, 5, 6 days, my chest would just constantly be like on fire, like it burned. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I would walk around like this, and my chest would always be burning. So it'd be like a constant reminder. Took my focus off of the mental pain and put it onto the physical pain. It's like a lot of people who cut themselves, they don't want to die. They just want the pain to go away. And that last 6 months, it was the darkest time of my life. And if I didn't get clean this time, I'm convinced that I'd be dead. 100%. Yeah.
That's intense. And obviously, for me, like I had someone I could lean on, like I ended up calling my best friend who was in recovery and who she was like a recovery coach. And I reached out to him. When was that moment when you like were like, all right, like I need help? And was there someone you reached out to?
No, I'll be honest, I was forced into rehab. Yeah, it was either prison or prison. It was prison or rehab. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at that point in my life, I was like, you know what? I mean, all the arrests added up, and I had nowhere to go. I was never homeless, so I don't like to say that I was homeless, but I had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
If it wasn't a rehab, there was no family taking me back. Like my family they were just done with me. You know what I mean? So it was either rehab or prison. I opted to go to rehab again. I went back to the rehab that I first went to ever. So I was 29, going back to a rehab that I had already been to when I was 18. So it's like, damn,
back.
11. Yeah, welcome
dude,
back.
I've done that.
They actually moved the building though. The original building, nobody will probably know this, but New Hope is the rehab that I went to in New Jersey. The original facility was in an old psych ward. So it was like the creepiest, dirtiest, darkest rehab you could ever imagine. It was so sketch. The newer facility was much nicer. But yeah, so I went to this facility, and I don't really know if I believed, I definitely didn't believe that I could get clean through the 30-day. But I said, hey, look, I'm here. I got 30 days here. I'm gonna make the most of it. So I put a little effort in, and then once I got to the halfway house, I've started to realize like, maybe I can do this. And I was there for 6 months. And then I went to the sober living house for, 5 or 6 months. So I was in like programs for about a year, but there was no reaching out. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have anybody that I could reach out to. It was like the system forced me to get clean. And I'm grateful for that. I needed all those arrests to build up.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like listening to you share about that, like brings me back to like those early days. And I like to say the beginning of the rest of my life because, closing that door completely shut is like, it takes so much strength. But once you do it, then it's like, all right, like now what? And like, it sounds like you were in that moment. Were there any habits that you picked up from other people within like that community, whether it was a counselor, whether it was, someone who, was in the same boat, obviously, but also like serious about it that you were like, all right, like, if this guy can do it, I could do it. Or was there someone that you leaned on in those early days? Like within that community that you were in, at the halfway house and whatnot?
Not really, if I'm being honest. I had built a small group of guys who were clean, that were just like me. We were all lifting. I started lifting. I was either lifting weights or doing drugs for most of my life. I joined the gym when I was 14, and it was either doing drugs or lifting weights. So when I first got clean, my business partner now, Scott, we got clean around the same time. There were 2 other guys who also got clean at the same time. So we were just like hanging out, going to the gym. One of those guys has passed away. One of them I have no idea. He could be alive, could be, I don't know. So it was like we had this group of 4 guys that we kind of leaned on each other. We were all in the same position, right? We were living in houses in Asbury Park, and all we had was the gym. So that's all we did. We lifted and we worked.
It's funny because like finding like the gym as a sanctuary it's such a lifestyle change, and that's something that like is super important. Where, like what was, I like, dude, like you're shredded, and like we talked about like your gym regimen. Talk about that like early routine, because like at the end of the day for me, like when I was in early sobriety, one of the biggest things for me was like establishing a routine and keeping small promises to myself and doing all of these little things and stacking days, at the end of the day. So talk about that, like when you first started to establish a routine, and you're just like, all right, let's fucking kill it.
Yeah, dude, the gym saved my life. Like I've done, we were talking about this before, meetings. I've had therapists, counseling. I've done all kinds of things to, work on myself. The gym has been the one constant thing. I don't take months off. It just became part of my life. And early in recovery, I needed that to, I had a lot of pent up anger and rage and resentment, mainly toward myself. And the gym was an easy way to put all that stuff. So I was every single day. There were no days off in the beginning. It's all I did. I was going to meetings, yeah, but if I'm being honest, I think finding the gym and like the healthy eating and taking care of myself has been the most important thing that's kept me, on this path that I'm on. I still do it. I still train. It's changed over the years, but in the beginning it was, just spend 2 hours, 3 hours in the gym. We were powerlifting. We came up with this like little like barbell club. It was like the four of us, maybe 5 or 6 of us, where we would, we just met at the gym every day and we trained.
Yeah.
We had Friday, we had deadlift and donuts. We'd get like a box of donuts. We'd block off the corner of the gym and we'd spend like 3-4 hours in the gym. So that was my socialization. That was my therapy. And, without that, I don't think I'd even be here.
One of the things, and I don't really want to glaze over because it was like super power, it was super powerful, was you said, I had these resentments mainly towards myself. That's super powerful, man. Just kind of even like getting to a place where you're acknowledging it. And, I think, obviously the gym is going to, build you up physically. What was the work that you did to improve the relationship that you have with yourself?
I don't think there's one answer to that, and just to touch on the resentment piece. I was 29 years old. I had a daughter. I had my first daughter when I was 18. So my daughter barely knew me at that point. You know what I mean? So I was so angry at myself to let my daughter become 11 years old and not know her father. You know what I mean? So there's been so many things over the years, dude. Meditation, breath work, journaling, getting vulnerable, like opening up. Like I know a lot of people who can't talk about the things that we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're talking about it on a podcast, and there are some people that can't even talk about it to another person. So like the therapy, just sharing, opening up, talking about your issues. Like we're all human, and I tell people if you don't get this stuff out of here, man, it's gonna eat you alive. So and just realizing I'm a person. I made mistakes. We all make mistakes. Mine had some pretty big consequences, and thank God that I'm still here, and just grateful that everybody accepted me back into their lives. Me and my daughter have a great relationship. I was 11 when I came back into her life, and it was hell getting her back. Her mom wanted me to sign my rights away. It's like no way. Like she was the one reason that I kept trying. You know what I mean? Like the prison, the threat of prison. Yeah. That definitely played a part, but I kept trying, like went to multiple rehabs, and like knowing that my daughter was out there and that she needed me, that was the main reason that I was able to just stick it out. Cause there were some challenges big time in the beginning. You know how it is. It's like, you can't think of anything other than using for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, I just remember like the first time that I ever tried to get like clean, and I was doing it for the wrong reasons. I was doing it because, I was trying to get something back, or I was trying to, not lose a girlfriend or get a car back. And, that never really lasts. Like for me, there's something that needs to be a higher purpose that kind of drives me. And obviously with you, it was fatherhood and your daughter that you can now identify as like this is the reason why I kept trying. What was that like reuniting with your daughter? And like, obviously, you said your relationship is great now, but it wasn't right off the bat, I'm sure.
No. And like, just to touch on what you were saying before, just like anything else, if your why is not more powerful than, I guess the things that like kept you where you are, like you said, a car is not a powerful enough why. A girlfriend that you probably didn't like very much isn't a powerful why,
Yeah.
So,
well, it's just that like once I'd get them back, like my ego would be fed again, and it's like, all right, like I'm the man, and life would get normal, and almost like normal, it was dangerous for me, like back then, because, the physical things were coming back, but my mindset and the way that I thought wasn't changing. It was like, all right, like I'm going to manipulate everyone into giving me back all these things that I've lost. I'm going to make them all believe that I'm this changed man. I'm going to get them all to trust me, quote unquote, because I don't think anyone ever really like truly trusted me back then.
Yeah.
And then, eventually I'll just go back to my own ways. And it started with maybe sneaking a drink and, sneaking whatever here and there and lying about it or actually getting away with it. And then it's like, you get away with it for a little bit and then it escalates and it escalates and it escalates. And it was just another cycle. And mine always ended with DUIs. So it was just kind of like, all right. But it wasn't until just that why became, I don't want to die. For me, it wasn't, the threat of jail didn't scare me nearly as much until the doctor told me that I was going to die. That was the thing that really opened my eyes because, I'd done 4 months already for a DUI. At the end of the day, I was like, all right, that's what it's like. It's not that I was wanted to go back, but now that I experienced it, I was like, all right, but getting told that this could be the end if you continue living the way that you're living, I was like, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and you were young too.
Just 3 years ago.
Oh, it was 3 years ago?
3 years ago.
I thought, you're still pretty young. How old are you?
Yeah. Now I'm 39.
Yeah, 36 is still pretty young to die from
Yeah,
alcoholism.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were clean for a lot longer.
No.
You do a good job.
I appreciate
Cleaned
that.
up nice.
Well, I fucking appreciate that, bro. But it takes doing that work and having a big why, and I think that's where, I tell a lot of people that the way that people live in recovery, I wish, there's a lot of people out there in the real world who may not suffer from an addiction and suffer from, a vice like that. But there are mindset tools that people in recovery utilize that I think could be useful for everybody.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Just the personal accountability, the discipline, I need routine. I need structure. I need to be actively disciplined in my life because the second I waver from that, bro, it's one piece of the puzzle, it's one domino falling.
It stacks. Yeah.
And when one domino falls, then another domino falls, and another domino falls, and then I'm drunk. That's how fast it could happen for me, and I only know that because I've seen it happen 5 times before. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, a 12-step program, anybody can benefit from.
yeah.
I feel like addicts and alcoholics are just lucky enough to find it because most people, they just kind of go through their day. They don't think about the people that they wronged, the things that they've done, the trauma that they've experienced. And I didn't do all the 12 steps. I got to the 5th step, but I'm sure working through all those steps, it exposes all those things. And it's a personal development.
Yeah. It's a personal development program.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you mentioned the spiritual components of it, like the breath work, the meditation. I want to talk a lot about that because that's so important for me now. And it's funny because you'll talk to people who were from my past and they'd be damned to think that Adam has this spiritual center.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't spiritual at all. I was transactional, so I want to talk about how important that, that spiritual center is in order for you to maintain not only your sobriety, but also your lifestyle.
Yeah. So for me, it brings me a lot of peace. I do all my stuff in the morning. We were talking I'm up early. I like to do my meditation, breath work, journaling, reading. And for me, I think a lot of people don't ever have 30 seconds of the day where they're not stimulated or quiet, or they don't think about anything. They're not thinking. They're scrolling, they're working, they're just occupying their mind. And for me, I think the magic happens when I slow things down and I'm able to sit. And I'm not doing an hour of meditation. I'm not sitting there. It's usually 10 minutes a day. I've been reading. I'll read for 10 minutes. I meditate for 10 minutes. But I can get, especially with the breath work, I can get into these deep states where I feel high. There's a fuzziness in my body where I'm sure you've experienced it, where you feel there's a chemical release in your body that makes you feel high, and it feels awesome. You're getting high without relapsing, but you can get into these deep states. And I've done a lot of the meditating I do is manifestation. Like I'm thinking into the future, and in the past, I would think about what I'm gonna do, how I'm gonna do it, what I'm gonna have. Now, like I'm there. I'm trying to put myself into the future. And are you familiar with Joe Dispenza?
I feel like I am. I feel like I've heard some of his stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does the seminars also, and
he does retreats, and he's
yeah.
big.
My friend went to one of his retreats.
Awesome. That's one of the things I want to get to eventually. But he's very big into like the quantum realm, right? Like,
do you know Diamandia?
What's that?
Do you know Diamandia?
Paul?
I had her. She was a previous guest on my episode.
No.
And she talked about how she went to one of his retreats, I think a couple, and it was just like life altering for her.
I bet. Yeah. I've heard a lot of stories. Yeah, I eventually would love to do that. So he talks about just like you're drawing the experiences to you by experiencing the emotions and the feelings, and you're already, your body doesn't know the difference of you meditating or of it actually happening. So he says when you meditate on it, you want to experience the feeling and the emotion, and you get like emotional when you're going through these experiences. So I have 5-6 years ago, I had this dream of wanting to have I wanted to have a log cabin on the side of the mountain. I wanted chickens. I wanted a wraparound porch. I wanted to be close to the Appalachian Trail, and I would meditate on having this lifestyle experience. And dude, in 2023, that's what I bought. And it's way cooler than I thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. But the way I would do it is I would meditate driving into the driveway, getting out of my car, putting the key in the door, walking into the cabin, and like experiencing what it would feel like to be able to accomplish like buying my dream home. And in 2023, I won't go into like all the details of it would take too long, but the way that this house found us, I didn't find it. It wasn't even on our radar. It like fell in our lap. It was strange. It was definitely God. And we went and we looked at this place, and I was like, wow, this is exactly what I've always wanted. And we made it happen, and now that's what we have. Dude, I got 40 chickens. I got this sick cabin on the side of a mountain. And so I know it's real. Like manifestation is 1,000% real, because how can a guy like me, 12 years ago, I'm like a strung out drug addict, heroin addict, and to have the life that I have now. And it's not even about the material things. For me, it's more about like the experience and the lifestyle. Like I just love log cabins. I love being in the woods. I love having chickens. It makes me happy. It has nothing to do with the value or the material side of it. It's just like, this is the life that I wanted. My wife doesn't have to work anymore. She's a stay-at-home mom, which is also what she wanted. We have another daughter. I have a 3-year-old, and we also want another kid. And like I created this in my brain just by sitting in silence for a few minutes every day. Also, working hard, having the good intent. You can't just do that and then do nothing. Yeah. It pairs. You have to pair it with hard work. Good intentions too. Like I have the right intentions. Like I'm not hurting anybody anymore. I'm doing the right thing. I'm trying to help people. I'm not being like overly greedy. And I live a good life. I live in the right way. I'm supportive of other people. I'm actively looking for other people to help, and I'm being rewarded for it.
Yeah, I mean, you just unpacked a lot there, and that's fucking awesome, bro.
Thank you.
Like one of the things that you said though, like how like the manifestation and the breath work and the meditation, like dude, like it's funny because like I'll be damned if I meditated like 5 years ago, be damned, and now it's I started with just like a few minutes every morning. And then I like added breath work, and breath work you could actually do anytime, anywhere, in any moment. So I love that. But it's funny, I really have been grounded in my morning meditation now ever since, and I'll tell you a story. Like I went to the chiropractor. Chiropractor gave me this little thing that I have to like lay on my back on and put like beneath my neck every morning for 20 minutes. And I've been doing it for the past like 3 months, bro. And I have like the deepest meditative moments when there, because there's nothing I can do other than just like, lay on my back. So then like, and the way it arches my back, like my breathing tube is just like super straight, so I can get like super deep breaths in, and I really get lost in it to the point what you were talking about earlier, where you feel like high, you feel that serotonin, and you feel just like this out of body experience, bro. And I do it for 15 minutes, and I do like really, really deep breaths, and I like, hold them, and I exhale, and I do some box breathing sometimes when I'm doing it. And I don't think of anything. I let the thoughts come to me. And I think that's really when I know that, like, I'm not going to say like I'm getting better at meditating, but it's when I'm like really being like, have gained control over my mind in a way where, like, you know, it's like uninterrupted. And I've never been able to do that, bro, because like my head's always fucking racing. You know what I mean? Like, it's always, you know, like, I think that's like the certain things that like haven't left me from the addict, you know, or alcoholic phase, where it's like I still have like thoughts like whirring through my brain all day. I do have like somewhat of an ADD tendency. Like, you guys see me, like, I was just like, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, I just had a triple espresso, but like, you know, like sometimes I'm all over the place, but like in those moments, bro, it's like that. I think it's really where like I'm able to connect to with my emotions, something I was like so unable to do. Because I think emotional regulation is one of the most powerful skills that you could ever have. And now when I'm conscious of the fact that I'm practicing emotional regulation and I'm allowing myself to feel and not just like emotions hit me and I just react, I think that's like a super powerful thing. And I really do think meditation and slowing down and being still has allowed me to really sharpen that emotional regulation skill.
Yeah, first, dude, I don't think it's just addicts and alcoholics that have that racing brain. I think that's the human condition. I think you can't just not think about anything, you know? So yes, very similar to you with the meditation. It's if I can gain 2 seconds in between like something happening and then me reacting, that's life-changing. Like, that's saving lives, because I'm a lunatic. If I can get just a couple seconds in between, I was talking about, like, you know, the road raging, and you know, it's if you can get a couple seconds in between and just think, because I used to just react like that.
Yeah.
You know, I think that is definitely an addict and alcoholic thing. But like meditation, yeah, it just slows everything down, and it allows you to be more present during the day too. You know, like even when I'm driving to work, I try to do half of my drive without any music. I try not to think. I try to look at the trees and like focus on whatever it is that I'm looking at, and just not be constantly worrying about like what's going to go wrong, what has gone wrong. And I've also kind of flipped my mindset of like what could go right.
Yeah.
Instead of always thinking, you know, about like, oh, what if this goes terribly? Like, no, what if this goes way better than I ever could imagined it going? Like, what if that? Like, that's a good space to be in, instead of stressing about like, oh, well, what if this fails? What if I can't pull this off? And, you know, we were talking earlier about like some new things I'm trying to do and take my life in another direction. If I sat around all day thinking about it failing and stressing about it, it's going to fail.
Yep.
But if I can think about like, oh, this is going to actually, like, what if this goes better than I'm planning it to go? Like, that's a good practice. It's a good routine to be in, you know? And if you can practice that, it's just like anything else. Practice. Being aware is probably the most important thing of like what's going through your brain, because your thoughts are the most important thing. You know that, man. You can attract anything, good or bad. So meditation has been I think next to training and like eating healthy and taking care of myself, meditation has been probably the second most beneficial thing I've done. And it didn't start like me sitting there for an hour, like getting into this. It was not like that.
Yeah.
And when people ask me, like, do it for 1 minute, literally set your watch, set a timer, do 1 minute a day. If you have to do that for 3 months until you want to bump it up, fine. That's 1 minute. And like forcing yourself to sit there. It's funny. Joe Dispenza has this like thing he talks about, and you got to treat yourself like it's a pet, where you're like, no, you sit here. I know you're hungry. I know you got to get to those emails. I know you got a million things to do, but you're going to sit right here for this, you know, X amount of time, no matter what. And if you can start doing that, then you can start taking back control of your body, which is basically stuck in a program, right? You wake up, you do the same thing every day. You're mindless. Your mind's racing. You're thinking all these thoughts. But if you can start taking control of that, and like you're experiencing that now, in 20 minutes, that's a long time to just lay there. It's great. Your chiropractor has basically given you like daily homework. It's like, no, you're going to do this for 20 minutes.
It's working, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. 20 minutes is a good amount of time. And
sick.
it's so relaxing. You probably look forward to it now.
Yeah, dude. I get up, and it's the deepest feeling of peace I'll probably feel all day.
You're present.
But it's the best way to like start my day. And this is like before I look at my phone. This is, you know, before, it's literally, I roll out of bed, I get on the ground, and it's the first thing I do. And it's crazy. And I hope I never have to stop doing this thing, Probably will
You
eventually.
don't have to.
But no, the whole I don't know how long you got me doing this thing. I got to talk to him about that. But regardless, it's something that now it's a routine and a practice that I'm going to incorporate, full steam because, I think it's so important, man. Because you talked about like the pause, bro. I never used to pause. I don't remember consciously pausing. Maybe pausing because I'm thinking of a smart ass remark. Or I'm angry and the anger's boiling over and I'm just like, don't even know what to say and I freeze, like that anger shock. But one of the things for me, like by incorporating all these, like the breath work, the meditation and all of that, is I've become unrecognizable to people before. Where when you have been reactive for your entire life and when you have been branded as angry for your entire life, and all of a sudden you show up as this calmly spoken, speculative, considerate person, people notice that shit. And it's funny because that's the biggest gift that I've gotten on this journey, where now people actually come to me because they consider me a rational thinker all of a sudden. They value my advice. And sometimes it's almost uncomfortable because people come to me for certain things or ask questions or, my voice is important to them. Sometimes it's a little uncomfortable, frankly. But now I understand that I can either give advice or I could say, hey, I don't think I'm equipped to really give you sound advice because I haven't gone through what you're going through or whatnot. Before, my ego would just be like, yeah, here's the advice. You better take it. And if you didn't, it's like, you were wrong.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Well, it's like imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I experience the same thing. Like people call me all the time for advice. And in my head, I'm like, I'm just I'm an addict. I'm like some drug addict. I don't realize like the 12 years of work I put in, I have changed so much. And when I sit back and I think about like how much I have changed, dude, I can't even believe it. Like, I don't know how I've changed this much in 12 years. I'm not even a small portion of what I used to be. Like if you knew me 12 years ago, you would stay so far away from me.
No, I'd probably get fucked up with you.
We probably get fucked up. Yeah, but it's just amazing, man. I'm just so grateful to be able to, live. Because I thought my whole life, I thought for sure, like I was convinced I'd be dead before 30. Like I knew for a fact there's no chance I'm making it to 30. And then when I did, I remember somebody asking me, like, oh, you're 30. How do you feel? I'm like, I feel fucking awesome, dude. Like, I didn't think I'd be here at 30. And I turned 30. I was probably in a facility because I got clean at 29. So, yeah, it's people can change.
Yeah.
Because you will hear people say that, oh, people don't change. I'm like, yeah, they do.
Yeah, they definitely do.
I know this for a fact. I have changed. I know many people who have changed.
Quick break to shout out our sponsor, Relive the Moments. Founded by John Lim, they're redefining how we share memories. From tap-to-play photo frames to interactive coasters, they turn ordinary objects into powerful, shareable experiences. Perfect for weddings, events, or milestone moments. Relive, reconnect, reimagine. Check them out at www.relivethemoments.com. Now back to the show.
Yeah. This is such a cool conversation, bro. I want to talk to you about all these gifts, and the biggest gifts is your family. Biggest gift is your wife. And you talked a little bit about your wife when we were having lunch, and obviously your daughter. And I want to talk about like what fatherhood means to you, because whenever I have a father on my show, I always ask because I think it's important.
Dude, patience. Patience is probably the single most important thing. So I have my daughter now is 3. She's 3 years old. And she is testing me every step of the way. Like I'll ask her not to do something.
Wait a second. I thought you have a 12-year-old.
A 12-year-old. I've been clean for 12 years. I have a 3-year-old and a 23-year-old.
Oh.
Yeah. I had my daughter when I was 18. And then a couple years ago, I had a 3-year-old. Yeah. So I started all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, wait a second.
Confused you for a minute there?
I'm trying to math over here.
Yeah. It's what keeps me going. It keeps me driven. I trying to raise a 3-year-old is the most challenging thing in the world. I try to just lead more by example, and she doesn't want to listen to anything I have to say. Absolutely nothing. I ask her not to do something. She does it and looks at me like, what are you going to do? You know, like, what? And I'm so soft. I have a really hard time. My wife is like, nope. My wife shuts it down. She like listens to my wife, and I'm the biggest. I'm not doing a great job of like disciplining her, but she's 3. I try to have patience with her. You know, it's not easy, but like seeing the way she reacts when I come home, man, it is the most fulfilling. I can leave for 10 minutes. If I come up the stairs, she sprints full speed, Daddy, like I've been gone for a week.
That's awesome.
And so I having kids has been the greatest gift ever. And like I said before, if I didn't have my first daughter, I probably wouldn't have got clean because I had nothing else to live for.
What's your relationship like with her?
It's great now. I know you asked me before and we kind of glazed over that.
Yeah.
When she was 11 and I first get back into her life, I'll never forget. I met her and her mother at like Applebee's for lunch or something like that. And it was the most emotional. I'm crying, she's crying. She didn't want to come near me. She didn't even know who I was. She didn't want to be there. But luckily her mother, kind of like forced her into it. And from 11 to, 18, it was like just back and forth. Like she would want to come see me, didn't want to come see me. Got a little better when she was 18, a little better when she was 20. And now it's like, it's awesome. We have a great relationship. She posted something about me like 4 months ago when I got that award that you mentioned. She came to the ceremony and I think it was like the first time she ever posted it. I think she was like embarrassed of me, and I understand. She posted something after the ceremony and said, like, I'm so proud to be your daughter. And that was like, dude, that was one of the most powerful things I ever experienced, because my daughter, who hated me for years and years and years, said that she was proud of me, like publicly on social media. That was huge, man. That was one of the most most amazing feelings I've ever experienced. Didn't think I'd ever get there. Took 10 years, actually 11 years. So
I love that, bro. And I just think it's like a testament to the power of forgiveness. And talk to me about forgiveness, because I know for me, forgiveness has played a tremendous role, me forgiving myself, from my perspective the most, but also, earning the forgiveness of others.
Yeah, I mean, my family's been great. They really didn't hold anything against me. Even though it was years and years and years of me in and out, they just wanted me to get better. I think the most important part for me for forgiveness was me forgiving some of the people that had done things to me that I guess put me on that path. And I wasn't really doing it for them. I was doing it for me. Like, I feel like when I'm forgiving somebody, I'm selfishly doing it for me, because I need to let that go. I can't hang on to all that resentment and anger and rage. But then, like, forgiving myself again, like I was saying before, I was almost 30 years old and I had nothing to show for it. But again, I thought I would be dead by that point. So it came pretty easy, if I'm being honest. I know a lot of people struggle with that stuff.
Yeah.
And for me to forgive myself, it took a little bit of time. Forgiving, I guess, others that had wronged me, that took a little more time than myself. And I don't really want to get into any of that stuff. There's some like family stuff in there, and I'd rather not even get into that.
I hear you. Yeah, I mean, like for me, like I really also kind of had to understand that forgiveness isn't so much for the other person as it is for me. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, like, me not forgiving really took up more space in my head than it did theirs. And it took me a really long time to understand that. And once I was able to, I understood that forgiveness really was just freeing myself of burden. And I think a lot of people struggle with forgiveness, because I think alongside forgiveness, you get a lot of ego. And it's, why should I forgive them? And why shouldn't you?
It's
most
like
people don't. Well, most people don't know how much space something they did takes in your head. So most people go through life maybe hurting people unintentionally because they're not attuned to other people's sensitivity levels, and why would they be? So I just think that for me, understanding that, you know what, I'm not going to take things too personal, and I took a lot of things personal along the way. And once I did that, it was just, I'm like very like cool with things. And, I have a partner, and sometimes she gets offended by things, and I understand why, But I also look at it as this person had no fucking clue. So, you know what I'm saying? So, but forgiveness played like just like a huge role in just like me like fucking figuring my shit out. But obviously, like we talk about purpose on this podcast. We got a big ass sign behind me that Claudia wants me to downsize. The day might come soon enough. What does the word purpose mean to you?
So that's changed so much over the years. Like when I first got clean, my only purpose was to stay out of jail, you know, and then it was to be a better husband, be a better father, and like those things. Yeah, of course, right? Like that's like surface level, in my opinion. So like I was telling you, you know, when I started speaking to these guys, and that first time that I spoke to them at the mission, and I just experienced like the euphoria, like their energy, like the positive energy, the thank yous, the hugs coming out of these guys that I didn't even know, saying like, "Oh, it's just life changing. Thank you for sharing your experience. You give me hope." That's become my purpose, and it's been like consuming me lately even more because now I'm trying to get into other facilities. It's just been the rescue mission for the last 4 years, and now we've developed this program over the last 4 years that I think is it's awesome. If you looked at it, the first one that we did compared to the one we just did, it's night and day. And one thing that stuck out in this last one, we had talked to a guy at the end of it. We do a presentation, and then a couple weeks later they graduate from it's like a 20-week program or something that they do. And we went to the graduation, and one of the guys came up to me and Curtis, and he said, you know, I was actually thinking about leaving the program, and then you guys came and spoke to me or spoke to us, and that gave me the motivation to stay. And like, you know, when you leave a program, you're either going back to prison, or you're going to go back you're going to go possibly die. It's not just like leaving a program and going home. You know, like for the people who don't understand, like leaving a program before it's completed, it's a big deal, you know? So once they said that, I was like, man, me and Curtis, we really need to bring this to other facilities. So now we've been going to other facilities. We've been reaching out, sending emails, calling, and it's amazing what happens when you voice something that you're super passionate about. The amount of things that have been happening, I can't even believe it, man. We just, multiple people are like, the response that we're getting when we talk about the program that we have is overwhelming. Like I didn't realize how cool of a thing we had going. And now it's really motivating us. Now it's starting to become like, this is my path now.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like God has put me on this path. And if I don't go 100% and like fully explore what this new path looks like, I feel like I'm like insulting God, because the amount of signs he's given me, it's overwhelming. You know, and it's almost like he's like, come on, dummy. Like, do you not see what I'm trying to show you? Like, this is what you need to do. This makes you happy. You're helping impact lives. Like, you're literally saving people. And I'm like, I've never been as excited about something in my life, but also scared, because it's a completely new thing I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know, so it's scary, but I have faith. I believe. And just like I was saying before, I'm not thinking about, you know, what if it doesn't work out? What if I fail? It's like, no, what if it's 10 times better than I can ever imagine it being? Like, let's think about that. Let's drill that into my brain, and you'll attract, like, that's the experience that I'll start to attract, instead of like, you know, the failure and the stress. Cause like us addicts, man, we can harp on the failures big time. You know, like that's my whole life. My whole life was a failure. So really trying to stay positive about it and just think of like best case scenario instead of worst case scenario. You know, just remembering the feeling I get when I talk to these guys, and like the positive reinforcement I get about what we're doing. You know, it's amazing, man. Yeah, my brother-in-law Curtis actually dragged me to the first one 4 years ago. He called me up. He said, hey, the rescue mission wants me to come do this presentation. They're starting this new program. I want you to do it with me. I said, no, I'm not. I don't speak. I'm introverted. I'm shy. Like, these are the things that I used to say to him forever, because I really was. That's how I felt. And then just out of respect to him, because he's like, you know, he's been like the greatest brother-in-law, like a husband to my sister, you know, father to my sister's 3 kids that he basically just like adopted and took on his own. I said, out of respect for you, I'll come with you this one time. And here we are 4 years later, I'm sitting on a podcast, and like, yeah, dude, it's so fulfilling. You understand, like, if, you know, you're making an impact on a daily basis. So what we were doing was, it would be every 4 months. So there's 3 cohorts a year. So we'd only go down every 4 months. And like, I would be full for a couple weeks, like so spiritually, my heart would be full. I feel so great all the time. And then as time went on, I would notice like that feeling would go away. And then I'd go do it again, and I'd be up again. And then so it was like this roller coaster ride over the course of the year. And then, I guess a couple months ago, we decided like, hey, we need to do this more. Like we need to do this more often. And the mission's 2 hours away. So I can't just pop in and like say hello and hang out with the guys. Cause if it was close, I'd be there all the time.
Yeah.
So now we're trying to find some facilities that are closer. We're building like more programs that we can facilitate and do as often as we want. If I can do this a couple days a week, awesome. It'll always be full.
Yeah, it's so funny, dude, because like I do the same in a couple of institutions here locally, and it's such a good feeling when you're just like talking, sharing your truth, and you see it in their eyes where they're like resonating. And I also like temper my expectations where I know that I'm not going to reach them all. And it's kind of a really sad reality when you're sitting in these rooms and that somebody in this room is probably going to die from this addiction. Somebody in this room is going to end up in jail within the next 6 months. But if you can reach one or two people, if you can get something to click for someone, then job well done, because that's the nature of the beast. So I don't think about that in the rooms. But there have been times when I get reflective, like when I'm walking out and I'm like, man, I really hope I reach that one kid in that corner. You could tell that he's in a rough spot. So, I say a lot of prayers for them. That's super important to me. And you've alluded to God and his role in your journey and how you've leaned on him. Can you talk a little bit about your faith and your relationship with God?
Yeah, so it's funny you bring this up. I always used to say it was the divine or the universe. I've got a weird relationship with like God and religion, and it goes back to some childhood stuff with religion and church, and I'm not going to get into that whole thing. But just a few months ago, I actually bought a Bible, and I've been reading it every morning. That's been part of my morning routine. And I'm noticing that like over the years, like I said, things just seem to happen for me when I put my attention and my intention in the right places. I'm trying to do positive things. I'm working hard, obviously. And I always, it's like synchronicities. It's the divine. It's the universe. It's nature. Whatever you want to. There's some being. I've always, the higher power. I've always been very spiritual.
Yeah.
And more recently, I'm like, oh, maybe it's been God this whole time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know. I don't know what it's like. I hear people say like, oh, I have this relationship with God. I don't know what that means. I haven't experienced that yet. I do feel there's some presence there. There's definitely something there. But for me to say like, oh, my relationship with God, like I'm just not there yet.
Yeah.
Like maybe that comes with time. It's only been a few months. I do enjoy reading the stories. I like how he speaks in parables and explains things in like storytelling. There's a lot of stories in the Bible that will shed light on it, instead of telling you like what to do, what not to do, there's like stories that make you learn. And I'm a big like learner through stories. And my daughter, my 3-year-old's been seeing me read it, and now she has her own Bible, which is really cool.
That's cool.
It's like a kid's Bible. It's the same stories, but in a kid's way. But yeah, that's really all I have to say on that, man. Yeah. I just don't. It's. I was hoping you didn't bring that up because I didn't really.
No, listen. I think that's cool, and I think there's a lot of people who feel the same way. So I think that by sharing that perspective and where you are with faith in God and whatever you choose to call it, I think there's so many people who are in that same position, and it's okay to be in that position at the end of the day. For me, I would never classify myself as religious. I don't associate myself with any church. I grew up Jewish. I do understand that there's something bigger than me. I do choose to call it God because it's easy to just for him to have a name, frankly, that I can remember. And I understand that, and I think it's probably rooted in the 12 steps. I understand that there has to be something that's bigger than me, because if I know I'm not God. And for a long time, I thought I was. So at the end of the day, making that clear line and separating myself from a lot of the things that happen, the factor throughout the day, it helps me. So, but I would never consider myself like religious or church going or synagogue going and whatnot. And my dad was like Hindu, like it's crazy. But I do. I'm spiritual. I'm grounded spiritually when I'm using my neck brace every goddamn morning.
There's too many things.
I just try not to
happen.
overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
For me, like I spent a lot of time, in the past attempts of getting sober or during past bottoms or whatnot. I'd always, have those foxhole prayers when I was in fucking fucked up situations.
Please God.
That's when I reached out for God. So like I always looked at it as like punishing and spiteful. And, for me, one of the things that I needed to do when I like finally put my sword down and stopped fighting was just like stop fighting and overcomplicating the concept of God and faith and spirituality. Just understand that there's something bigger than me driving, and it works for me.
Yeah.
Bro. So like, I want to go back to purpose because, I usually ask like there's sometimes rapid fire questions, there's sometimes not. But what 3 things do you do on a daily basis to keep you grounded in your purpose?
I mean, I guess just the meditation, the reading, and then just, I don't know how these things keep me rooted in my purpose either.
Well, we just went over the meditation, the reading. It's how you set the foundation for your day to be productive.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, I guess I'm not doing a lot every day. I mean, yes, that's part of it. But I mean, when you ask me that question, I almost feel like those are like, what are 3 action items? I don't have like 3 action items that I'm doing currently because I'm just like starting to really get serious with like doing this on a daily basis. I work so much. It's like I don't do this every day.
Based on what you've told me, it's meditation, the reading, and working out.
Yeah. Those
are
what
3 non-negotiables that you do every day
to keep me on the right path. Yeah. Thank you.
We got there. Yeah, I love that. That's so cool. That's so cool. Well, I think those things are really, really important. Yeah, I mean, from like our discussion at lunch and our discussion here, like those are things that you couldn't stop talking about, and that's where your passion lies because those are lifelines for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I would define as, 3 habits that, keep me grounded in my purpose. Make sure that you're prioritizing your daughter. Make sure that you are being the best father, the best husband, the best, co-owner, collaborator of Hollow Labs, and, being the best version of you, essentially. It's funny, bro, because every time I had seen you, like I'd seen you at the Ace dinner and you'd go up and you'd share your story. I was like, I need to fucking connect with this dude. and then I saw you at A to B Con and it was the same thing. We saw each other in passing. I was on the red carpet and I was interviewing people. So I didn't really get a chance to sit down with you. And then I was like buzzing around that room because I was trying to like grab people. So I didn't really even get to pay attention at the conference as much as I would. But, just like sitting down with you at lunch and the call that we did and now, it's like I feel like I know you at such a much better level, and that's the beauty of like also sitting here in this couch. I learn new things about people, and that's why I love doing this, man. But I want to ask you this final question: what advice would you give to someone on the journey of finding their purpose?
Find something that you're passionate about. That's what it was for me in the beginning. When you're I mean, I'm gonna speak for me as like an addict. Like you don't have any passion when you're an addict. You get clean and you're just completely lost. So what I started to do when I got clean was I started trying new things, and I found like I'm passionate about working out. Most of the stuff that I'm passionate about has to do with like fitness and being active. I love backpacking, hiking, being in nature is a big part of my recovery story too. Like I used to just, even when I was stressed, I would find myself in the woods. Now I live in the woods. And as far as like finding a purpose, to find something that like lights you up inside, something that you're excited to wake up for in the morning. Because I'm an early guy. I like to get up 4 or 5 o'clock, but there's periods in my life where, if I'm being honest, I struggle to get out of bed. Right now, I'm not struggling to get out of bed. I'm getting up before my alarm clock every single day because I have this purpose driving me. And it's not about me anymore. It's about these guys that I know are sitting in a facility. They're expecting me to show up. They're expecting me to deliver a good presentation. And like you said, if one person can get something positive out of what I bring, that's worth every early morning. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And, to go back what you were saying before, when I'm speaking to these guys, 10, 12, 15 guys, like I also understand that like some of these guys are going to die, but the amount of facility, like nobody gets clean in the first facility, right? Usually I don't know how many times you went away, but I went away, I don't know how many times, but if like
3, basically.
If I can be the last,
last stop.
You know what I mean? And hopefully they had already had a bunch of stops. Like unfortunately for them, it took that long, but that's the reality. Nobody gets clean on their first stop. So, and most of these guys are coming out of prison, so it's not their first stop. So I feel like with the guys that we're speaking to, and the program that we're building, we probably have a higher percentage chance of like actually saving somebody's life, and that's like that motivates me so much. So we're doing, on top of doing Hollow and doing Underground. Me and Curtis are meeting once or twice a week for like hours and like building the programs, going to visiting places. So it's a third job I have now, on top of like being a dad and being a husband and training the way I train. So, that's why the early mornings are necessary.
Yeah. One thing I actually forgot to ask you about is the Appalachian Trail. Like, that must have been like a crazy spiritual experience for you also.
That was amazing, dude. I've loved that trail. I lived in Pennsylvania for a year when I was 20 or 21, and this guy, John Arrow was his name. Where?
Yeah.
His name Reading? Like outside of Reading?
Yeah.
He was in that
You an Eagles fan?
No.
Whatever, dude.
No, I don't watch football anymore. Okay. Where was I? Oh, so I met this guy. He told me that he had hiked the whole trail with his dog after he graduated high school. This is, this is 20 years ago. So I was so intrigued by that. I'm like, you walked through the woods for 6 months with your dog? That must have been the coolest experience you've ever had. Yeah, it definitely was, So when I got clean, I started hiking it. I started driving, 2 hours to go hike it. Started getting to trail running, started doing ultras, and it was 2023. We went to a graduation ceremony for the mission, and it was the first graduation ceremony I went to. Maybe it was 2022, and the guys got up there and told their stories of like just some of the things they had gone through, like the clients there. And I left there. I was so motivated to do more. I said, how can we? I'm coming here 3 times a year. That's great, but how can we do more? So I took that, and then I like running ultras. I run in the woods for hours at a time. So I said, why don't we build a fundraiser? So we set up a fundraiser. I was going to run the whole section in New Jersey. It's 72 miles. I was going to run from New York to PA, like the whole stretch of New Jersey. And I wanted to do it in under 24 hours. So we set this whole thing up, set up this fundraiser. My initial goal was 10,000. And some guy was like, no, go for 20. I was like, all right, I'll go for 20. And then some other guy came in and said, no, you need to go for 100. What you're doing is amazing. People are going to get behind this. And dude, we ended up raising $63,000 for the mission in this one-day event. I'm doing interviews. I'm in the newspaper. And this was before I did any social media. I was like anti-social media at the time.
Still are.
Yeah, I still am. But before I gave in, the fact that I was willing to like get interviewed, be in the newspaper, do social media videos like by myself and not be forced into it, that was like the first like seed of like, oh well, I'm willing to do things that I don't like for a cause greater than myself. So yeah, dude, there was one guy donated 25,000, another guy donated like 15. There was a lot of like smaller donations, but yeah, it was 23 hours, and it was amazing. The sunrise after running for 20 hours. I had a team of people. I had 4 of my boys, had my pickup, and they just drove from like road crossing to road crossing. Some of them ran. Like I ran every mile with one of my friends because they all run ultras. It was, it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. And then for like 2 or 3 weeks after, I had this like massive depression because I had 6 months of just dedicating my whole life to this run. I did the run, and then it was like, now
hard
what?
Stop.
You know what I
Now
mean?
what?
Like
Yeah.
now what do I do? I was
like
lost,
that.
dude. It was scary. I'm like, how can I feel this way? I just did something like so amazing for guys who needed it. I raised all this money. I did this cool thing. I did this big run. How can I feel so empty?
It's because you're going 100 miles an hour and then hard stop. It's over and you wanted to continue.
It's like a crash. It's like coming off a drug.
Yeah.
It felt like I was coming off a drug and like detoxing from like 6 months of like this massive
Intensity.
high. The training for the whole 6 months was so intense, man. I was pushing. I was 225 pounds. I was down to 205. I was like so lean, dude, because I was running so much. It was fun. It was fun. But that was the first. That was like the first big thing that made me realize like I need to do more of this. Like I need to, because the impact that had, dude, it was awesome. They had a bunch of the guys came to the finish. So it was like 20 of them at the finish line with this big like banner that I ran through. It was really cool.
That's really awesome, cool. Man. Well, I'm glad I didn't forget to ask you that.
Yeah, man. That's I love talking about that.
Yeah,
really
that's so sick. I want you to talk to my audience, man, and tell them what you have coming up, how they could reach you, and anything else you'd like to share with them.
Cool. Yeah. So my two businesses, Underground Nutrition, Hollow Labs, both can be found on Instagram, Facebook. My personal contact is alan@hollowlabs.com. My Instagram is alancollins.33. And really coming up, I don't really have anything coming up. I mean, I'm just focusing on building these programs. So if you work at a facility, rehab, halfway house, or you know somebody who does, and they're looking to have some different type of programs be brought into the facility, please reach out. I would greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much for driving from Jersey, coming here, and lunch was great, and I'm really excited to share this episode with my audience, folks. I really appreciate you listening, engaging, subscribing, liking, all the things. I want to shout out Claudio at Kai Visions here in Stamford, Connecticut. Any podcast needs, content needs, business development needs that require social media content or any video or audio video, feel free to reach out to me or him, and we'll get you going. And once again, guys, the more we engage, the more we continue to talk to each other, and the more we are vulnerable, the more likely we are to either find our purpose, remain grounded on our purpose, and share that message with others. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.